Now, why can't I see? Okay, that's a little better. Child, what's going on in my head today? But that's all right. I got on this apron. I'm in here cooking before trying to do this video. That's better. Pinning the question of the day so I don't forget it. All right. So, very quickly, I started working with my with my new freelance writing coaching client, and she asked me a really great question. She's really excited about getting her freelance writing business up and running. And she asked a really great question that I think a lot of people who are newbie writers um, ask about. And so she asked, basically, she wanted to know how to plan a blog or a newsletter. She's new to freelance writing, particularly for as a freelance writing for companies, but she also wants a place where um, she can just sort of write for herself, and she's not really clear on whether or not that should be focused on herself. Should it be more focused on her business? Where does all that stuff fit? So, if you're new to me, my name is Halana Black. Halana Black. I am a freelance writer, have been a freelance writer for the past 8 years. I started off my business. Um, let's see, I started off my business writing blog posts for companies at literally $10 a piece. Terrible. $10 a piece. These days, I'm getting paid between $500 on the low end to as much as $1,500 for blog posts that are a little bit longer and a little more complicated. So, there have been a few things that I have done in the last 8 years to be able to build my business up. And I'm really excited to be able to share that information with you. I'm also a location independent writer. I've been traveling the world for the last 5 years. I started off 5 years ago living in Thailand, and I currently live in the country of Rwanda. So I've lived in about 7 or so countries started my since I started this voyage, this journey of me being a location independent writer who travels the world as she pleases. So back to how to plan your blog or your newsletter. Um, Before I actually started my freelance writing business, I've had a couple of blogs. I'll tell you about them a little bit later. But I've had a couple of blogs, and they've really helped me to be able to sort of find my voice, and just to have a place to be able to practice writing. And I really believe that every writer should have a space online or elsewhere, um, where people can find your writing online. Now, this is particularly for people who want to be able to write for a public audience. Like if you are a person who just wants to, you just want to write for yourself, then you can get a journal. But I'm specifically speaking to people who want to be able to share their writing. So I believe every writer who wants to write publicly should have a space online where people can find um, your writing. The reason why is because it helps you to practice your writing. That's super important. You got to be able to practice your writing. If you are a writer, writers practice their writing all the time. Doesn't matter if you're a fiction writer, nonfiction writer, and every genre in between. You need to be able to practice your writing on a regular basis. Number two, you need to be able to get a feel for what works on the internet. Um, it's really great to be able to get feedback on your writing. And that was one of the things that really helped me to grow my voice online is because I got feedback. Um, and that's how you know that your writing is really working, is that you people actually comment on it or you get responses. Um, Number three, you may want to write online because you may want to build an audience. You may want to build an audience. Maybe the audience, may not be a big audience right away, but perhaps in the future you may want to do something that may require you to be able to build an audience. So if you have a dream of like writing a book, teaching a class, growing your freelance writing business, you may want to use your blog or your newsletter as a site to be like a demonstration of the work um, that you're creating to be able to sell. So, question of the day: what do you want to write about? I would really be interested in knowing that. Are you like a health person? Do you write fiction books? Um, what else is there? Do you write like fantasy fiction? Are you an expert in something and you want to be able to write a book, maybe a memoir of something that you've gone through? I'd be interested in knowing. That's the question of the day. You can put the answer in the comment box below. What do you want to write about? So I have a few steps to be able to help you to figure out how to be able to at least think about planning your blog or your newsletter before you actually get started. And I think that these tips will help you to get out of, I call it analysis paralysis, and actually get you writing. Procrastination only puts your writing career on hold. This is very important to think about. We can't buy the book that you haven't written. We can't. We can't come to the seminar if for a book that you haven't written yet. Your writing has to start somewhere, and I think a blog and a newsletter is a really great place to start. So first thing you want to be able to think about is, what is the purpose of your writing? What's the purpose of your writing? If you're a newbie writer, this might be the space where you're using it for personal expression, right? Personal expression is just as important as writing for a big audience and selling things. Every writer starts off with just personal expression, and what I find is that when you write for just personal expression, it'll actually help you to grow your voice, and then you'll figure out what it is that you're excited about writing. That will come off later. But in the early days of writing your blog or your newsletter, it could just be you talking about what's important to you. Now, if you're a little bit past the personal expression phase, then you may want to think about writing a blog or a newsletter that's focused on personal branding. What's personal branding? Personal branding is sort of creating an online reputation for yourself. So, um, creating an online reputation for yourself. That's what personal branding is. So you start to build a reputation around a particular topic that maybe you're an expert on. Maybe you travel around and you want to create a blog or a newsletter about the travels that you are experiencing, and you create a personal brand um, around you as a person who travels the world, either as a solo person or maybe with your family. There's so many ways that you can go with that, but you can either think about the purpose of your writing as writing for personal expression if you're a newbie writer, or if you want to get serious about building a personal brand if you're a little bit beyond personal expression on the internet. Number two, what you want to think about is, what do you have to say? What do you have to say? And really, there is no right or wrong. Um, there really is no right or wrong answer to this question. What do you have to say? Because this is all um, personal. Every person is an individual. We all have our own individual experiences in the world, and all of our opinions are valid. But two things you want to think about is that, number one, you want to pick something that you are going to be passionate about. The reason is, you can start writing about one particular topic, and then a couple months in, you realize, I really don't have anything else to say about this. I'm so exhausted. And so now you got to figure out something else to write about. But what you want is to be able to find something that you are so passionate about that you can write all day about it. I used to have an education blog when I first, like, when was this? Maybe 2004. I used to be in the field of adult education, and I wanted to be able to share some of my thoughts of what it is that I was learning about adult education and what I was learning about adult education and what were my experiences working in the field. And so I was very passionate about it. I was, I was going to a graduate school program at night, and then I had a daytime job where I was implementing the things that I was learning. And so it was really important for me to be able to share my thoughts somewhere. And some of the writings that I put online actually led to me getting consultation jobs. I got teaching jobs because of it. So that was pretty cool. But you got to be passionate about what it is that you're writing. People need to be able to read your post and be able to see that you've done enough work in this particular area um, to be able to sort of pull people into what it is that you're saying. Number two, you really want to have a strong opinion when you think about what it is that you have to say. When I was doing my health blog, it started off as just sort of personal expression, and then it grew into me talking about um, that it grew into me saying that healthcare for Black women in America was a mess. That I had horrible experiences dealing with doctors in America, um, and I wanted to be able to write about that. I had situations where I was dealing with uterine fibroids, and I just felt like I wasn't getting the sort of help that I wanted. All they wanted to do was give me like birth control pills, surgery, or just nothing. They offer you no help at all, really. And so that was my opinion that black healthcare for Black women um, was unfair. It didn't work. I had a horrible experience with it, and so that was what I wrote about. And so, as a result of me having such a strong opinion, I actually attracted unintentionally a small audience of women who had similar experiences, and we were able to have exchanges about what was going on with us. So, what do you have to say? Be passionate and have a strong opinion. Um, Now, once you do that, you can actually stop there and just go on ahead and get to your writing, get your writing started. But for those of you who actually maybe past the sort of newbie writer stage, you may want to figure out a way for you to be able to get feedback. When you start your blog or your newsletter, there's not going to be going to be a lot of people who are just going to find you randomly. So what I used to do is when I wrote a post, right, I would write a post for my health blog. I would immediately go to my Facebook page and I would say, hey, I wrote a post about, um, my experience at the doctor's office. Take a look at it and let me know what you think. And so, back in those days, I probably had 1,000, maybe a couple of thousand Facebook followers. And people would check it out. They would go to my website and they would sign up for my little newsletter, and they would leave comments on my blog and all sorts of other things. That's how you get interaction. It has to be purposeful for you to be able to get feedback. Nowadays you can use YouTube. You can certainly make your own YouTube channel and say, hey, I wrote a a blog post or newsletter about this particular topic. Maybe you can give them a little, talk about it for 5 to 10 minutes about what it is that you wrote, and invite them to go to your actual blog and read the rest of what it is that you had to say. And that's how you can sort of maybe build a community around the thing that you write. There's also Reddit communities, Reddit. There's a community on Reddit for pretty much any and everybody. So if you go on Reddit and you find your community of, I don't know, what do they call them? Like if you're a third culture kid, a third culture kid. That's a popular thing to talk about on the internet. If you're a third culture kid, that's like if you were born in another country and like your parents are of another country. Um, like you're born in one country and then but your parents are from another country and there may be somehow like another there's a third culture in there somewhere. And so, these are children who grow up in families that really don't belong to any one culture, and they sort of stick together once these third culture kids are able to find one another. So there's a Reddit community for them. There's a Reddit community for people who um, love cybersecurity. Um, there's a Reddit community for people who want to learn more about natural health. And they get very, very nuanced, very niched down, these communities. So you want to be able to find communities that would be interested in the thing that you're writing about. So you can go into these communities, it's completely free. You go in and you say, hey, I wrote a post on whatever your topic is, and you invite people to go ahead and read it. And, maybe they will go ahead and they will subscribe. They'll leave a comment and all sorts of other things. And you got to do this regularly. You got to do this regularly. This is how you get people to read your work. It's work. It's work. You can't get frustrated because you wrote 2 blog posts and nobody read it. It takes time to be able to build an audience around what it is that you're writing. And then lastly, you want to think about how often are you going to write for this blog or this newsletter. There really is no right or wrong response to this. It's just what it is. What is it that you are willing to commit to? Now, usually people commit to writing once a week. Pick a day of the week that works best for you and stick to that for 2, 3 months and see how it goes. Just stick to it for 2 or 3 months and see how it goes. And then you'll be able to see what day of the week works best. Does publishing on Sunday night work any better than publishing on a Wednesday morning? You get to do the experiments, you get to be able to figure it out. So that's my 2 cents on how to go about at least thinking about planning your blog or your newsletter. Um, you just want to be able to figure out what it is that you want to say, be passionate about what it is that you want to be able to write about so that you'll do more than just a month or two of posts. Have a strong opinion. Um, yeah, and then figure out how often you want to be able to write about it. And then you take it from there. You just sort of gather information as you go. There is no perfect way to be able to do it. You just want to be able to get some momentum around what it is that you're doing, right? As a matter of fact, I wrote my own newsletter about it. I just started a newsletter for uh, women writers and creatives. It's called Wealthy, Wise, and Whole. So you can go to Halona, HALONA.substack.com if you want to get my weekly post. I just wrote a post about um, building momentum in your writing. So all of this is relevant. So thanks so much for hanging out. Please answer the question of the day. What is it that you want to write about? I'd really be interested in knowing. And also, if you are interested in working with me as a freelance writing career coach, I am able to do that. I do one-on-one consultations. So the link is in the description box. Please do like, share, and subscribe to this channel so that you can get updates when I create a new video. I usually do one video a day. Um, I'm doing this just to be able to practice my speaking. Eventually, I will be doing more speaking as I move closer to the United States. So I am getting my practice in. I usually post every day. I need to pick a time to be able to do it so that people will know when to expect my lives. Um, but I post every day except for Sunday. Those are my no computer days. Sunday is my no computer day. So have a great day. So great to see you all. Peace.